update. Joining us now from Northern Virginia, Chairman, Prince William County Board of Supervisors, the number one elected official right now in Virginia as far as in Northern Virginia. He's also the chairman of the Donald Trump for President campaign in Virginia. Trump today in New Hampshire in a must-win situation. Tomorrow he's got a 17-point lead according to the new overnight polls that just came out. Trump 33, Rubio 16. Chairman Stewart, good to have you with us, man.
Great to be on, man.
I tell you what, there's all a buzz here in New Hampshire. Well, I said earlier, we're at the center of the universe, and this place just teeming right now. But look, we stopped by the Trump headquarters last night after we went to a Fee Arena event. I mean, it was buzzing here, Corey, in New Hampshire. They had a couple hundred people. The phones were going crazy. They had people waiting. I've never seen this. They had people waiting to get a spot on the telephones. They had that many people there in their New Hampshire headquarters last night. Now, it's not the most organized thing I've ever seen. It's not like the Ted Cruz campaign in Iowa where they had the apps and everybody had an app, and it's a little helter-skelter, but a lot of enthusiasm. So everybody that's saying that the Trump has no ground game, I don't think that's accurate.
Well, that's good to hear, and I believe that he's look. We've got a ground game in Virginia. There's a ground game in South Carolina. We know that Trump is way ahead in New Hampshire, and I'm confident that we're going to win. So I think everything looks good. If I had to summarize everything in one phrase, I'd say, look. Let's dispel this myth that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing.
that was Marco Rubio on the debate Saturday night. I got to ask you about that, Mr. Chairman. I really felt that he got totally exposed by Governor Christie Saturday night when it was like somebody threw water on the chamber puppeteer circuit switch and it got stuck. He kept saying the same thing over again.
It was hilarious. I mean, message discipline is important, all that. I mean, it was actually one of the most humorous things I've seen in politics in a long, long time.
So what kind of impact do you think it's going to have?
Well, to be honest with you, I think it's a little bit more serious than Rubio's people would like to suggest. I mean, it does indicate that, look, he's a lightweight. He's all about talking points, and look, Governor Christie said he's memorized a 25-second speech. He goes right back to it. He doesn't really have anything of substance to say. It's just like Washington: come by, do a drive-by, hit on the other candidates, and then deliver your 25-second speech and then run away. People saw that, and in a day like this, and an age like this, where things go viral, and it's still going viral. I mean, I think it's a death knell for Rubio. I really do.
Well, I think you're right, and it was so bad, I thought, because when Chrissy went back at him and said, "See, there it is. There's exactly what I'm saying, everybody. There it is again." He said the same thing again. That's all he can say. It's like Marco bot, like a robot, and like the wires went in the water or something, and then they had to reprogram it. And with everything that's going on in the country right now, and the fact that a lot of us feel that America is running out of time, this is our final chance. We're circling the drain. I mean, I just don't think you're going to turn the country over to somebody that really showed you Saturday night that he's very young, he's very programmed, he's very robotic, and somebody is pulling the strings on this guy. I don't think that's the answer, and I think it's going to hurt him here tomorrow night.
Well, that's right. I mean, one of these somebody from the Obama administration. I'm sorry, it was Axelrod actually who said, people are looking for a remedy, not a replica, and that is true in this circumstance. I mean, I think Rubio is just far too much like Barack Obama. Obviously not in his ideology, but in this, he's got They're both, first-term senators, very, very little experience, no experience of running a large organization, and people are not going to want to repeat that same experience, even with somebody who's a little bit further to the right than Barack Obama.
Well, yeah, I mean, he really looked on that exchange with Christie on Saturday night like he was simply a wind-up doll, where, those old dolls where you had when we were much younger, where you just hit the button or you'd pull on the string and they'd have, 10 things that they'd say over and over. It almost seemed like that. And, you got the feeling coming out of this debate that Senator Rubio is just a lightweight.
Yeah, I mean, he's a well-spoken lightweight. But at the end of the day, if you can't think on your feet, if you're unable to break out of this, these memorized speeches, if you're unable to, rely on some substantive experience, I mean, for goodness sakes, this is President of the United States. It's not like he's running for the United States Senate or even a governorship. I mean, he's got to be prepared. And I mean, if he were to get elected, he would just be, can you imagine him in some tough negotiations with Vladimir Putin? It's very tough to imagine that with Rubio.
I wouldn't be able to see that either. And look, Trump campaign, I believe, must-win situation in New Hampshire. Corey, you really are not going to be able to. We're not going to be able to spin this thing because right now, overnight that just came out, Trump with a commanding 17-point lead over Marco Rubio, and that was before the debate. So this poll taken by CNN before the debate started. So I could only think that's going to grow. So Trump in a very good position to win the state. New Hampshire has always been their firewall. It's where they've got a solid organization. Corey Lewandowski, their campaign manager, is from New Hampshire. He knows the area. Must-win state, right?
Well, it's definitely a must-win state. Iowa is always it's a very strange. You were there. It's a very strange system. I used to, when I lived in the Midwest, I took part in caucuses. It's very difficult to get people to go out to the caucuses. It's a strange system. They don't understand it. It's pretty much the party regulars who go each and every year. So Iowa is not a good indicator about how a candidate is going to do. And in the last several years, Iowa has been a very bad indicator about how someone's going to do in the future. New Hampshire is going to be a much better indicator. And it's a primary system, just like most of the other states that are going to follow it. And I think that this I saw an interview just recently with somebody in New Hampshire, an older gentleman who said, "Look, who are you going to?" They asked him who he's going to vote for, and he said, "Look, I like Trump. He's outspoken, he's plain spoken, and that's exactly what the country needs right now." And I feel that is what a lot of people are saying. That is exactly what the country needs right now, is somebody who's outspoken, not politically correct, is going to speak bluntly without any varnish about the nation's problems and how to fix them.
Well, that's going to be the bottom line. And, under normal circumstances, expectations aside, when you look at Trump's performance in Iowa, where they were really outgunned, I mean, that thing was set up for Cruz to win. They had 10,000 volunteers there, right? And they had apps. And, look, they were flying in. I mean, I got to Des Moines on Saturday. Former Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli was there, knocking on doors for Cruz. E.W. Jackson was there through the weekend, making phone calls for Cruz, going to churches. I mean, look, they pulled out all the stops. They had a good win. They should be congratulated for that, Corey Stewart. But, I mean, Trump got the second highest number of Iowa caucus voters ever in the history of Iowa. And yet it was positioned by the media as a defeat. That didn't make any sense at all to me.
Well, right. I mean, the media had really raised expectations. They were too high, and the polls are just notoriously so difficult, inaccurate in Iowa because of the strangeness of the caucus system. So here you're going to have a much better indicator. And the ground game, it sounds like from what you're telling me this morning, that the ground game in New Hampshire for Trump is so much better. It seems to be much more intense than it was in Iowa.
I think so. They got about 250 volunteers fanned out across the state, and they got 20 or so paid staff. So I think it's going to be a lot better. But look, it's not like Iowa where you have to really get people out. They have to stand around for 2 hours. People just come up and they vote. I think the Donald Trump for president campaign is going to have a very good night, Corey, here on Tuesday night. Tell us about Virginia. Now that we finally got rid of that stupid pledge, by the way, great job in helping us get rid of that. How do you think the state stands now for Trump?
Well, Trump is going to win Virginia. There's not a lot of attention on Virginia yet, either by the candidates or by the electorate. But after South Carolina, you've got Nevada in between, but there's going to be an immense amount of interest and candidate attention paid to Virginia because on March 1st, it's probably the most important state. We expect to win. We expect to win easily, but it's going to. We're not taking anything for granted because this is always going to be a very squirrely situation, and I think that the primary contest could last for at least another month before we know for sure who the candidate is going to be.
Corey, what do you think the odds are of this going to an open convention in Cleveland?
Well, that certainly would be interesting, and it is something that we are preparing for in terms of our delegates. I don't think there's ever been such a strong group. Now, clearly, if you're looking at this in layers, Trump is clearly on top. Then you've got 4 or 5 people right there in the middle, who all of which have at least a reasonable chance of securing the nomination. And as long as that continues, the chances of a brokered convention are probably greater now than they have been in the past 40 years.
I think so, and that's why it's critical that those who are for Trump, that those delegates get elected in Virginia. I know, Corey Stewart, you're running on the statewide Trump ticket that'll be decided at the state convention in Harrisonburg on April 29 and 30, I believe. I'm running along with Robert Ike and Ann in the 4th District. And for more information, go for us in the 4th District, go to TrumpDelegatesVA.com. How's that for a segue?
That's perfect.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we are out of time. We want to thank Corey Stewart, the chairman of the Prince William Board of Supervisors, also the chairman of the Trump for President campaign in Virginia.